Hello and welcome to another episode of Bad Decision Works. This time we are going to continue working on the Mailtruck project. In previous episode we built the base for the frame, the floor and the main hoop. And now we're continuing to try to get the rear suspension attached to the frame. Which will mean that theoretically at least we can attach a wheel to the car. The top mount I'm using here is a top mount for an E36 M3, which has a very nice sort of symmetrical, well not sort of, an actual symmetrical ball pattern layout. And I made these round circular things that you see me weld something towards now. And yeah, that's where all the suspension attaches to. I made a stand, you could see it in the bottom half of the frame, the TV frame I mean. There is some bars that go and they keep the suspension in place. So I measured the suspension and now I'm attaching the frame to the suspension. So now I know the suspension is in the right place. So neutral caster and very limited camber, which can be adjusted later obviously on the top mounts, but I just wanted to start especially on the rear with a very neutral setup. So these are the bars in place. These bars actually are leftovers from the main hoop. Not the actual main hoop that's in the car, but one of the tryouts that Matthias Ledin made. He wanted to get the main hoop that I ordered with him exactly right, and he did. It was like on the millimeter, even more. But to get there, he made some test bends, and yeah, I'm reusing these as in the suspension. These are also 45 by 2.5 millimeter drawn over manual tubes, so seamless tubes. And here I'm TIG welding them in. You just change the glass, well it's plastic, but the windscreen, so to say, in my welding helmet, because I did it before, but now I really promised myself to change the windscreen every time I switch from MIG to TIG. So MIG is with the all the damages and all the blemishes from all the weld spatter, and the very nice clear one is for TIG welding, so I can properly see what I'm doing. At this point the suspension is attached to the frame and I can't move anymore, so it's time to take away the temporary mounts that I use, the sway bar mounts to fixate the coilovers in place. So, but yeah, that's not necessary anymore obviously. Putting the sway bar in place. This next thing will be mounts for the original tie rods. Obviously the steering rack is gone because this is the rear axle and I don't want the rear axle to steer, but I do want to utilize everything that's, well, as much as possible from the original suspension setup. But this means replacing the steering rack with some simple welded in brackets. You see me, well, align is a big word, but kind of make the wheels parallel to the frame. So, well, the tie rods will be adjustable, so it's not actually necessary, but it's nice to have some kind of like a sort of center point, sort of aligned center, so it can go equal distances on the tie rod adjustability. Let's remove the original tie rods from the original steer rack because I want to reuse them in the for the rear axle. The hex shape on these tie rods, the inner tie rods, is very narrow. That's why I have to cut and remove this plastic steer stop, whatever, first to be able to get this wide wrench on it. And well, this is super tight. I think there's some kind of glue or Loctite in between in the thread.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus.
That was tight.
And here you can see some kind of goop
What the fuck is this?
in the threads. Doesn't really look like Loctite, but it's some kind of glue. Must be. This was just rust. Also some kind of glue. Nature's glue, I should say. Yeah, and off camera I clean the threads and make everything nice and smooth again. But eventually I'll replace all of this. But as long as it works now, it works. Don't want to spend too much money if it's not necessary yet. So these are the nuts with the M16 by, what is it, 1.5 I think, fine pitch thread. Just something beefy to be able to mount the original tie rods to. You know, I weld them to a little bit of a 6mm plate. That I will later weld on the subframe, roughly in the spot where the original steering rack goes. So it mimics the steering, like a fixed solid steering rack that doesn't steer, and is thus not a steering rack. But yeah, you get the point. More TIG welding. Derp-a-der. Yeah, I just brought these very hot nuts outside, put them in the snow, let them cool down before I attach this side plate. Back on the car, I have to grind away a little bit of the paint on the original subframe. I tried to weld to it before, but the paint messes up the welds pretty badly. So just tack welding them in place. Maybe I need to move them in the future for whatever reason. I try to tack weld most of the things, except for the full weld you see me do before. But all the things that I'm not very sure about, that I just tack weld them, and then probably somewhere in a few weeks I'll go on a welding marathon and just weld everything that's now tack welded. Hopefully mostly with TIG, but it's a lot more efficient, a lot quicker to do MIG welding. Anyway, the brackets in place here, and this is me installing the original inner tie rod to the fake steering rack, and it works. Wheel is solid, doesn't go anywhere, still adjustable, still original parts. So if I need to replace anything, I can just order it at V-Parts or everything but Autodoc. Because I fucking hate Autodoc, sorry. I just quickly 3D printed an adapter because I have to go from 51mm to 76. And this one is hitting the engine block. It's just a little bit, and I could slant it a little bit to make it clear the engine. But I am going to try to clock the turbo. There is hard lines going to it, but they have a little bit of wiggle room. And this side a little bit less, but it's quite a long hard line, so it probably will give, and it just has to rotate maybe 1 or 2 degrees, so just a little bit, just to clear the engine a little bit more, and this will be a little bit more here. And so I can, I'm not going to use the 3D printed part because this is way too hot, but I'm going to use this as a kind of like a template to build the piping from. So if I have it once made from 3D printed parts that I glue together, I can then replicate it on the bench in aluminum or steel or carbon fiber. Yeah, and here I'm fast forwarding a little bit. I mistakenly thought that with loosening the thing that I'm fiddling around now, that would free up the intake part, compressor housing, to be able to rotate, but I'm completely wrong. So I had to look up on the big internet to see how to clock a TD0420G, which is this turbo. Okay, so some circlip pliers on the big circlip and the compressor housing. Pull it in, rotate, and that's it. Just a little bit. Let's see if we clear now. Oh, easily. I could probably better rotate it back a little bit, because otherwise I have to adjust the wastegate actuator too much. And here I'm back working on the front of the frame. Like a few weeks ago I already made the frame extension on the passenger side, on the other side. And now I'm welding in a little bit of a plate that blocks off the original subframe. It's splattering like hell. I don't know, there's some kind of coating on this subframe that's like super aggressive, or maybe there's some kind of, because it's double layer, maybe something in between the layers, but well, with a little bit of perseverance I got it burned in, and well, next up is it's attaching this little piece of pipe. It has to be exactly level and the same as the other side, obviously, because well, it's used as a reference point. Well, mostly that.
12.
It's hard to see, but I'm using the laser level again. I use that like all the time. But I'm using the laser level the laser level is aligned with the floor frame. I measured that before, like off camera, before I started filming. And then I'm using the just a normal ruler to to measure if this pipe is exactly in the same perpendicularity, is exactly perpendicular to the rest of the frame. And then it should also be level, blah blah blah. There's lots of things that you need to do.
Yep, this will do.
And with that frame piece in place, I could lower the cabin. Okay, it's time to take out the front window. I left it in as long as possible because I was kind of afraid to remove it. But it's not glued in, it's in rubbers, so it should be fairly straightforward. I don't know if these windows are, you can buy a new one if necessary. I have no idea, but I'll just take it out carefully and we'll see what happens. Yeah, it happened. Yep, there we go. Tried to take out the window and it snapped. Fuck, this is going to be a pain in the ass and probably expensive to get a new one. Okay, so the window cracked, which is a bummer. No idea if new windows are available and what they cost. If they are available, they'll probably be very expensive, but for now I just want to be careful because I'm not very much the careful kind of mechanic, but this is something I'd rather be a little bit more cautious with glass. Because if it breaks while it's in my hands, it might well just like chop off an arm or whatever, or a leg, or wherever it falls, because yeah. That would be something that happens to me. Like, for example, 2 days ago I bit a piece of my tongue just eating a sandwich. So that's my life. But this is going well for now. I think it is layered glass still. It's from the 60s. Yeah, it is layered. It's 2 layers. I can see it. So it's probably safety glass in that way. But well, the rubber is still quite okay, but it shrunk, so there is a little bit of a leftover, well, open piece in the top, or whatever in the end will be in the future. But that'll, I'll just 3D print a space or whatever, so I can reuse this. This is good, at least. But the glass, not so much. Anyway, why am I taking out? Oh, this. Okay, this works well. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, the wipers are fucked. Okay, so why am I taking out the windscreen, you might ask? The reason I did it before is that I was afraid that it would crack, which eventually did. But it saves some weight now while working. It tended to tip over because the front screen is a little bit heavy and took everything out of balance. But that's just a small detail. But the biggest reason is that I'm going to get the A-pillars from Matthias laid in soon, before Christmas. So in the Christmas holiday, I'll be fitting these A-pillars, and then I go from the A-pillars across, have a dashboard bar, so to say, and then go to the front, and then the car should be able to stand on its own feet. That's why. Sad. Okay, to further prepare for the A-pillar frame that will go from there to there to there, down and through the floor to the floor frame, to these tubes. And then afterwards I can do like all the crosses and blah 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 blah. But I decided to remove everything inside that it's not 100% necessary. So the only things I'm actually going to keep is these latches for the doors, because the doors will be almost completely original. But the windscreen wipers, everything was fucked and old, so I took that out, grinding it down, all the bolts and nuts, because I couldn't get anything loose, so I just forced it out. So now it's only the rear view mirror, which is not actually a mirror anymore, but that's still in, and that's it. So oh yeah, and I should take out these two, because that's also very much gone. That's it. Rear end is coming together quite nicely. The only thing missing now here on this side is the tube that goes from there to there. But I did some measurements last week. I measured like everything, cross measured. My girlfriend helped me with the tape measure, cross straight everything. And this side is 0.2 mil too far to the front, back, whatever. No. The other side was 208 and this is 7.8. So it has to move out 0.2 mil. So I'm going to cut these tack welds, put a ratchet strap or a jack or what, bottle jack or whatever, and move this side that way a little bit, and we'll stretch inside the all the joints over there, and then remeasure and re-weld. But a 0.2 mil gap here shouldn't be any problem to weld shut. So yeah, and also working on the intercooler. Don't know if I already mentioned that, but it's going to be mounted somewhere around here. So I need to make some brackets. Already doing some CAD here, but I'll probably do some 3D scanning and a temporary plastic 3D printed bracket for that. So. What I did here is I cut away a little bit more off the Tjorven because there's, well, it's in the way. The top mounting point for the front struts will be quite far inside the cabin. This is a double wall part, so there's about like 20 centimeters between this part and the inside here. So now I'm going to cut this window here, so I'll have a little bit of more space for the top mount to live, and also to connect, because there has to be a very short tube that runs from this circle to the A-pillar frame that will be inside the cabin later. That's going to arrive soon, so I'm preparing for that. I already positioned the strut so that it's in the right caster and camber angle, or at least some number, so I can transfer it to the other side later. But yeah, I need to cut a little bit of a hole, so let's do that. So yeah, we reached the end of another episode of building on the Mailtruck. I'm in almost 2 months now, and as you can see, the progress is quite good. Rear end of the frame is almost done. The only big thing I have to do is copy this tube to the other side and then add a cross. But before I wanted to do that, I wanted to absolutely make sure that everything is square and the wheels are aligned, so it's not like a banana car from the beginning. For the past few days actually I've been measuring and calling my girlfriend to come help in the workshop to measure front to back, because that's a two-man job, more than I can count. And her mind was blown by all the numbers and all the cross-referencing and triangulations and all the calculations I had to do to check. And it actually turns out that the engine, everything was square, but not all the mounting points are exactly the same. So I'm now using these bolts that go into the center of each wheel as reference point, because they must be the same. I can't use, well, I can use other points. Anyway, long story short, turns out that the engine was a little bit off to the side, to this side actually. No, to that side. I had to move it, I just moved it over, I think maybe 5mm. Everything was still, the lengths between front and back was still good, but left and right was wrong. So I'm making a lot of use of my white paint marker, also next to the laser levels and long rulers and multiple tape measures and one of these digital inclinometer, whatever, angle meter. That's the most valuable thing when building a frame. When you're not doing full CAD and everything. I can do more with the 3D scanner and AutoCAD and measuring on the computer. But it's not necessary, and it's for me, since that's quite new, it's still more complicated than doing the old school style. And also I don't want this build to be too fancy. It sounds bad. I do want to have the quality good, but I don't want to scare people off like, oh, this guy with all his fancy equipment. And the message I want to get across is that like everybody can do this with the right equipment. And the right equipment until now, as I said, paint marker, tape measures, and laser levels. Laser levels are I really underestimated how important they will be. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna end this video here, and when I press stop recording, I'll immediately jump into the next hoop and re-weld these tubes, because I cut them loose to be able to move the engine, and then everything's baked in and it's final. And we'll move on to the cabin, lower the cabin, put the 8-pillar frame in, and then we can move forwards and get the front suspension measured in, baked in, welded in, everything. So please like and subscribe, it really helps. And share this stuff with your friends and family. Just share it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, mail cards, your grandma in a letter, Christmas letter, I don't know. Merry Christmas. See you in the next episode.